The massive crystal room buzzed with fear and anger. Leaders from hundreds of planets sat in their special chairs, all looking at the big screen in the middle. The screen showed something terrible. Black ships eating entire star systems. The IDS Void Seekers were back after sleeping for 10,000 years. Commander Vex was a big warrior from the Krithari race. He had 6 angry eyes and wore thick metal armor. He hit the speaking table with his huge fist. "No more talking. My ships are ready to fight these monsters. We will show them how strong Krithari fighters are." All the warrior races started cheering, loudly. The snake-like Zolonians made hissing sounds to show they agreed. The crystal people called Nexari made musical notes of approval. Fighting was always their answer to problems. Captain Jake Morrison sat quietly with the other humans. He was older, with gray hair and tired eyes. His simple blue uniform looked boring next to all the fancy armor and robes around him. Next to him, Lieutenant Amy Foster looked nervous as other aliens stared at them with unfriendly eyes. "What about the humans?" asked High Chancellor Zorith. She was made of living crystal and spoke with a voice like breaking glass. "What will your people do to help us?" Jake stood up slowly. He looked small and plain compared to the giant warriors around him. "We think we should move all the normal people away from the dangerous areas. We should build strong defenses around our most important planets and have backup plans ready." The room went completely quiet. Then everyone started laughing in mean ways. "Move people away?" Vex's voice was full of disgust. "Running away before we even fight? This is why humans will never be real warriors. You are all cowards." General Crix was a female Zolonian with sharp teeth and forked tongue. "Humans always run when there is danger. When others fight, you hide in corners. When others attack, you run away. Maybe it is time for real warriors to handle this problem." Jake's face got a little angry, but he kept his voice calm. "We have read the old records about the Void Seekers. Every time someone tried to fight them directly, they lost. Every race that charged straight at them got eaten." "That was long ago," Vex shouted. "We are stronger now. We have better weapons and more ships. These Void Seekers will break like glass when they hit our combined fleets." The alien leaders voted quickly. Almost everyone agreed. The warrior races would lead the attack against the Void Seekers. The humans would do support work, which really meant they would help people run away while the brave aliens did the real fighting. As all the delegates started leaving, Amy grabbed Jake's arm. "Captain, they are making a big mistake. Our computer analysis shows that—" "I know," Jake said quietly. "But sometimes you have to let people make their own mistakes. We will do what we always do. Get ready for the worst thing that could happen." But Jake was not really hoping they were wrong. As he watched the alien war fleets getting ready on the screens around the room, he knew the truth. The Void Seekers had lived for 10,000 years by being very smart and very dangerous. They were not easy to kill. The human reputation for being cowards was about to face its biggest test. But Jake had a secret. Sometimes being called a coward was exactly what you needed to win an impossible war. While Commander Vex and General Crix planned their glorious battles, Jake was already thinking about something much more dangerous than any direct fight. He was thinking about a plan so crazy and risky that it would make the bravest warrior look like a frightened child. The other races saw human caution as weakness. They did not understand that humans had been preparing for this day for much longer than anyone knew. Every time the galaxy called them cowards, humans had been learning. Every time they were told to run away, they had been planning. Now the real test would begin. The Void Seekers were coming, and the galaxy's greatest warriors were about to learn what happened when unstoppable force met immovable object. But first, they would have to watch their heroes fall. Only then would they understand that sometimes the greatest courage looks exactly like cowardice, until the moment when everything depends on it. Jake walked out of the crystal chamber with his small human team. Around them, massive alien warriors strutted and boasted about their coming victory. None of them noticed the quiet human captain making notes on a small tablet, or the way his tired eyes had suddenly become very sharp and focused. The galaxy thought it knew what humans were: peaceful, careful, always avoiding fights. They had no idea they were about to discover what humans really were when everything they cared about was in danger. And that discovery was going to change everything. 3 weeks passed. The USS Liberty floated in space near the danger zone. Other aliens thought it was just another human ship meant for running away. That was exactly what Captain Jake Morrison wanted them to think. But the Liberty was not a normal ship. It was packed with secret human technology that other species had never seen. The ship looked plain on the outside, but inside it was the most advanced vessel humans had ever built. Jake had learned that the best trick was to let enemies think. "You are weak." "Give me a report, Lieutenant Foster," Jake said as he walked into the ship's control room. Amy looked up from her computer screen. The numbers on her screen would have amazed other species' best scientists. "The quantum scanner is working perfectly. We have been tracking 17 Void Seeker ships through space. The way they move is very scary. Show me what you found." The big screen changed to show a map of nearby space. Red dots showed where the Void Seeker ships were moving. At first, their movement looked random, but Jake could see the real pattern. They were pushing all the alien fleets toward one area. "They are not just attacking anywhere they want," Amy said. "Each fight is planned to push our ships toward certain places. It looks like they are making some kind of trap." Chief Engineer Tony Blake walked over to them. His hands were dirty from working on machines. "The time machine drive is ready to test, but I have to warn you, we have never tried anything this dangerous before. The power needed might destroy our ship." "What about the quantum anchor system?" Jake asked. "It is installed and ready. But Captain, I do not think our ship can handle the stress. We are talking about forces that could bend space and time itself." Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez was their radio officer. He looked up from his station with a worried face. "Captain, I am listening to radio calls from the fighting. The Krathari Third Fleet has stopped talking to us. That is the 5th big group of ships we have lost contact with in 12 hours. Jake nodded sadly. This was happening exactly like the old history books said it would. The Void Seekers were not just strong, they were very smart. They had been fighting and eating civilizations for millions of years. They learned something new from every battle. "Sir," Amy said quietly, "the other alien species are asking where we are. I think they want to know where we will run when things get really bad. Tell them we are staying here to help with moving people to safety," Jake said. "And Amy, turn on our hiding technology. It is time to disappear." The Liberty started to shimmer and then vanished from most scanning equipment. Humans had been working on this technology in secret for many years. To the galaxy, humans were the peaceful species that avoided fights. They liked exploration and talking instead of war. The other aliens had no idea that humans' best skill was seeing patterns that others missed. Humans were always getting ready for dangers that others could not imagine. "Captain," Tony said, his voice full of worry, "are you sure about this plan? If we are wrong about what the Void Seekers really are, we will waste humanity's only chance to survive." Jake stared at the battle map. He watched more alien fleets move into what he now knew was a carefully planned trap. "Tony, do you know why other species call us cowards? Because we do not charge into battle without thinking? No. It is because we are the only species that really understands what we are fighting. They think running away means being scared. We think it means getting ready. They think moving people to safety means giving up. We think it means saving what is most important." Jake's eyes became hard and determined. "Sometimes the most brave thing you can do is let people call you a coward." The bridge became very quiet as everyone thought about Jake's words. Outside their ship, the first part of humanity's real plan was already starting. While the galaxy was watching the big military battles, human ships were secretly moving to positions all over known space. It looked like they were just doing normal jobs, moving people to safety and bringing supplies. In reality, they were placing parts of the most dangerous weapon ever created. This weapon would require humans to risk everything, including their own lives, to save a galaxy that had called them cowards. Jake found this very ironic. To save everyone, humanity would have to do something so incredibly brave and risky that it would make the warrior race's greatest battles look like careful retreats. All around the galaxy, human ships continued their cowardly work. They moved civilians away from danger zones. They carried supplies to safe areas. They avoided any direct fighting with the Void Seekers. Other species saw this and shook their heads in disgust. But each human ship was carrying something special. Hidden in their cargo holds were pieces of technology that no other species knew about. When put together in the right way, these pieces would create something that could save or destroy everything. "How many ships are in position?" Jake asked Amy. Amy checked her secret communications channel. 237 human vessels are now at their assigned coordinates. Each one is carrying the required components. The network will be complete in 48 hours, and the other species still think we are just running away. Commander Vex sent a message calling us useful cowards for handling the evacuation so efficiently, Sam reported. General Krigg said we should stick to what we do best, avoiding real fights. Jake smiled grimly. Perfect. Let them think that. Let them believe humans were only good for support work and running away. They would understand the truth soon enough. The truth was that humans had been preparing for this moment for 70 years. Ever since they first joined the galactic community and read the ancient records about the Void Seekers, they had been planning. While other species built bigger guns and stronger armor, humans had built something much more dangerous, a plan that required perfect timing, incredible sacrifice, and the willingness to be called cowards right up until the moment they saved everyone. "Tony," Jake said, "how much time do we need to finish our preparations?" "Another 36 hours to complete the quantum field calibrations. But Captain, once we start this, there is no stopping it. The energy release will be visible across half the galaxy." "Good," Jake replied. "It is time for the galaxy to learn what human cowardice really looks like." The news came in fragments, each transmission more desperate than the last. Crethary, First Fleet. Heavy casualties. They're not ships, they're something else. Zelonian Command, we need immediate reinforcement. They're inside our shields. Somehow, all units fall back to... No, it's too late, they're everywhere. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the Liberty's command center, watching as the galaxy's greatest military forces were systematically dismantled. The warrior races that had mocked humanity's caution were learning too late what the ancient records had tried to warn them about. "Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council," Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez announced, his voice tight with tension. The main screen flickered to life, showing High Chancellor Zorith's crystalline form. Behind her, the council chamber was in chaos. Delegates shouting, displays showing system after system going dark. "Captain Morrison," Zorith's typically composed voice cracked with desperation. "The situation has deteriorated beyond our projections. Commander Vex's entire battle group has been lost, and General Krix reports that conventional weapons are having no effect whatsoever." Jake nodded grimly. "The Void Seekers aren't a conventional enemy, Chancellor. They exist partially outside. Normal space-time. That's why direct military engagement fails. You can't destroy something that isn't entirely there to begin with." "Then how do we fight them?" "You don't fight them," Jake replied quietly. "You survive them. How much time do we have before they reach the core worlds?" Zorith consulted a tactical display. "Our best estimate suggests 72 hours before they breach the inner defensive perimeter." "Captain, the Council formally requests human assistance in coordinating the defense of—" "No!" The word hung in the air like a death sentence. Around the council chamber, delegates stared in shock and growing anger. "No?" Zorith's voice carried a dangerous edge. "Captain, surely you don't intend to abandon the galaxy in its darkest hour?" "We're not abandoning anyone," Jake replied calmly. "We're doing what we've been doing all along, what you called cowardice. We're preparing for the real fight." Lieutenant Amy Foster approached Jake with a data pad, her face pale. "Captain, the quantum resonance analysis is complete. The Void Seekers aren't just consuming matter and energy. They're harvesting something else, something that explains why they've returned after 10,000 years." Jake glanced at the data and felt his blood run cold. The truth was worse than he'd feared. "Chancellor, Jake said, turning back to the screen. I need you to issue an immediate evacuation order for all civilian populations in the core systems. Move them to the outer rim, as far from the galactic center as possible. That's impossible. The logistics alone. Do it anyway. And Chancellor, when your military commanders ask where the human fleet is, tell them we're doing what cowards do. We're running away. Jake cut the transmission before Zorth could respond. Around him, the Liberty's crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces set with grim determination. Tony, Jake called to his chief engineer. How long until the temporal displacement drive is ready? 6 hours, maybe 8 if we're lucky. But Captain, the calculations show a 93% probability of catastrophic failure. The energy release alone could destroy everything within a light-year radius, Jake finished. I know. That's why we need to be in exactly the right place when we activate it. Amy looked up from her console, realization dawning in her eyes. You're not planning to fight them conventionally. You're planning to... Oh God, Jake, that's not courage, that's suicide. Sometimes, Jake said quietly, they're the same thing. Sam, send a coded transmission to all human vessels. Phase 3 is a go. It's time to show the galaxy what human cowardice really looks like. As the Liberty began its final approach to the galactic core, Jake wondered if history would remember humanity as heroes or as the species that was too stubborn to know when they were beaten. Either way, in less than 72 hours, the galaxy would learn that sometimes the greatest acts of courage come from those who others call cowards. The Void Seekers were about to discover that humans had been preparing for this moment, not for weeks or months, but for generations. And that preparation was about to culminate in an act so recklessly brave that it would redefine the meaning of sacrifice itself. 57 hours remained when the truth finally revealed itself. Captain Jake Morrison stood before the main display in the Liberty's command center, watching as the massive Void Seeker fleet converged on the galactic core. What had appeared to be individual ships were revealing themselves as something far more terrifying, components of a single, vast entity that existed across multiple dimensions. The quantum analysis is complete, Lieutenant Amy Foster reported, her voice barely steady. The Void Seekers aren't invaders, Captain. They're collectors. They've been harvesting the life force of entire civilizations for millions of years, storing it in some kind of dimensional matrix centered around galactic cores. And every 10,000 years they return to harvest what's grown back, Jake finished grimly. It's not conquest, it's farming. Chief Engineer Tony Blake joined them, his face haggard from exhaustion. The temporal displacement drive is online, but I've run the calculations a dozen times. If we activate it at the galactic core, the energy release will propagate backward through time, affecting not just the Void Seekers but potentially unraveling causality itself. Which is exactly why it might work, Jake replied. The Void Seekers exist partially outside normal time. A temporal shockwave is the only thing that could affect their extra-dimensional components. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez looked up from his communication station. Captain, I'm receiving final transmissions from the defensive fleets. They're requesting immediate evacuation support. The remnants of the Krathari and Zilonian forces are asking for human ships to help them retreat. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Even now, facing annihilation, the warrior races were asking the cowardly humans to save them. The irony would have been amusing if it weren't so tragic. Sam, open a channel to all remaining ships in the defense fleet. The main screen split to show the battered commanders of what remained of the galaxy's military might. Commander Vex's proud armor was scorched and broken. General Crix's crystalline scales were cracked and dim. Human vessel. Vex's voice was hoarse with defeat. We request assistance with evacuation procedures. Our ships are too damaged to maintain hyperspace capability. We are prepared to provide coordinates for fallback positions, Jake replied. But first I need you all to understand something. What you're about to witness isn't cowardice. It's the logical conclusion of 70 years of human preparation. What are you talking about? General Crix demanded. Every time the galaxy called us cowards for avoiding direct conflict, we were studying our enemies. Every time you mocked our defensive strategies, We were learning how to fight wars that couldn't be won with weapons, and every time you dismissed our evacuation plans, we were preparing for this moment." Jake paused, looking at each commander in turn. "The Void Seekers can't be defeated by conventional means because they're not a conventional enemy. They exist across multiple dimensions, harvest life force instead of just destroying it, and they've been doing this for millions of years. The only way to stop them is to attack them where they're most vulnerable, in the quantum substrate that connects their extra-dimensional existence to our reality." "And how exactly do you propose to do that?" Vex asked. "By detonating a temporal displacement device at the exact center of their dimensional matrix," Jake replied calmly. "The explosion will propagate backward through time, severing their connection to our dimension permanently." The silence that followed was deafening. That's insane," General Crix whispered. "The energy release alone would destroy everything within multiple star systems, including your ship." "Including our ship," Jake confirmed. "And that's why you called us cowards. Because we were the only species willing to consider a strategy that required absolute sacrifice. Warriors fight to win glory. Cowards fight to save others, even if it means no one will remember their names." Amy stepped forward. "All human vessels are in position, Captain. The quantum anchor array is established, and the temporal displacement drive is at full charge." "Sir," Tony added quietly, "once we activate this, there's no going back. The Liberty will be vaporized instantly, and the temporal shock wave will rewrite history itself. We don't even know if we'll exist afterward." Jake nodded, then turned back to the screen showing the other commanders. "This is why humans were labeled as cowards, because we were willing to plan for the scenario where victory required total sacrifice. Your species fight for honor and glory. We fight to make sure there's still someone left to remember what those words mean." He moved to the command console, his hand hovering over the activation switch. Around him, his crew stood at their stations, faces calm with the acceptance of necessity. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Initiating final phase in 10 seconds. It's been an honor serving with you all." Jake's finger descended toward the switch, but Lieutenant Rodriguez suddenly called out, "Captain, wait. I'm receiving a transmission. It's from Earth Command." The screen flickered, showing Admiral Lisa Carter, the highest-ranking officer in the human fleet. Her expression was grim but resolute. "Jake, we've been monitoring your situation. The quantum calculations were correct. The temporal displacement will work. But son, you need to know that this isn't a suicide mission." Jake frowned. "Admiral, the energy release will be contained by the quantum anchor array that every human ship in the galaxy has been secretly installing for the past 3 months, Admiral Carter interrupted. "What the galaxy saw as evacuation ships were actually deployment vessels. We've been preparing for this moment since the day we first encountered the Void Seeker historical records," Amy gasped, checking her console. "She's right, Captain. The quantum resonance readings show a massive containment field surrounding the galactic core. Every human ship, every evacuation vessel, every cowardly retreat was actually positioning components for the largest quantum engineering project in galactic history." Jake stared at the display, understanding dawning in his eyes. "The entire galaxy is the weapon." "Exactly," Admiral Carter confirmed. "The temporal displacement device isn't a bomb. It's a surgical instrument. The quantum anchor array will focus the energy release precisely where it needs to go, severing the Void Seeker's dimensional connection without destroying local space-time." "But sir," Tony protested, "the calculations still show massive energy discharge. Even with containment, the Liberty won't survive activation." Admiral Carter's expression softened slightly. "Tony, did you really think we'd send our best people on a suicide mission without a backup plan? Check your secondary systems." Tony's eyes widened as he read his console. Emergency temporal displacement pod, but these weren't in the original specifications. "Because the original specifications were designed to make everyone think this was a suicide mission," Admiral Carter explained, "including most of you. The galaxy needed to see humans as cowards right up until the moment we proved them wrong. Sometimes the best way to hide courage is to make it look like fear." Jake felt a weight lift from his shoulders as the true scope of humanity's plan became clear. For decades, they had endured mockery and dismissal, all while preparing for a threat that might never come. And when it did come, they had been ready with a solution so elegant, so precisely calibrated, that it would save the galaxy without anyone even realizing how close they had come to total extinction. "All ships," Jake announced. "This is the Liberty. Activating temporal displacement device in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The galaxy held its breath as spacetime itself convulsed around the galactic core. For an instant, that lasted eternity and no time at all. Reality bent and twisted as the Void Seeker's dimensional matrix collapsed in on itself. Then suddenly it was over. The Void Seeker fleet simply wasn't. Not destroyed, not defeated. Erased from the quantum substrate of reality itself, their extra-dimensional existence severed so completely that they had never been able to threaten the galaxy in the first place. As the temporal displacement pods carrying the Liberty's crew materialized aboard the rescue ship USS Freedom, Jake Morrison realized that history would indeed remember this day, but it wouldn't remember humanity as heroes. It would remember them as the species that everyone called cowards, right up until the moment they saved everyone. And perhaps, Jake thought as he watched the galactic core return to peaceful normalcy, that was exactly how it should be. After all, the best courage was the kind that didn't need recognition, the kind that did what was necessary simply because it was right. The galaxy was safe, and tomorrow, when the other species asked what had happened to the Void Seekers, humanity would probably just shrug and say they got lucky. Because sometimes the most powerful truth was the one that looked like humble luck to everyone else.